Hi. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about register, and specifically we're going to look at what is register, what does that even mean? What are we talking about in Spanish? We're going to get a little bit more into register in Spanish, and then we are going to talk about asking questions in Spanish in different registers. So let's get started. First of all, what's register? Well, register is how we use language differently in different situations. For example, think about the difference between sup versus good morning, how are you, right? Sup is pretty informal, right? So here we have a greeting that's really informal. We might use it like with our friends or siblings, something like that. Good morning, how are you? That's a little bit more formal, right? We might use good morning, how are you with like a teacher or a boss or just somebody that we don't know very well. So that's an example of register in English, two different situations with two different groups of people and how we might greet those people. One is less formal and one is more formal. So let's talk about register in Spanish. It's interesting because in Spanish, there's actually more than one word for you. In English, we just have you. We use you if we're talking to a boss. We use you if we're talking to a friend. We just have that one word. But in Spanish, there's more than one word for you. Tú, spelled T-U with an accent mark, is more informal. So we use tú in a more informal register. Usted is more formal. So we use usted in more formal situations for a more formal register, okay? So let's talk about asking questions in different registers because the questions are going to look a little bit different in Spanish depending on whether we're using the informal register, tú, or the formal register, usted, okay? So let's start out with this question, what is your name? To ask that in an informal register, for tú, we're going to say, ¿Cómo te llamas? Or, ¿Cómo te llamas tú? The tú is optional. You can say it or you can leave it off, okay? So that's informal. The formal way of asking that same question, ¿Cómo se llama? Or, ¿Cómo se llama usted? Again, the usted here is optional. And that is the way to ask that question in a formal register. So let's take a look at the differences. So, ¿Cómo te llamas tú, with that S on the end, right? ¿Cómo te llamas tú? And the formal, ¿Cómo se llama usted? Okay. Let's take a look at one more. What if we want to ask somebody, how are you? Okay. If we're going to do that in an informal register, we'd say, ¿Cómo estás? Or, ¿Cómo estás tú? Right? The tú again is optional, but you can use it if you want to. And if we want to do that in the more formal register, usted, ¿Cómo está? Or we could say, ¿Cómo está usted? So let's take a look again at the differences between these two questions. For ¿Cómo estás? We have an S at the end here, ¿Cómo estás? And for ¿Cómo está? No S, just the A with the accent mark. Okay. So that is one way that we use register in Spanish is by using either the informal register, the tú register, or the formal register, the usted register, and that changes the way we ask questions sometimes in Spanish. Right? So down here in this space down below in your Cornell notes, write a summary of what you just learned about register in Spanish. Adios.